All right, so I'd like to call to order the May 7, 2025 meeting of the Lower Stafford Township Board of Supervisors and ask everyone to rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That brings us to our second agenda item, which Vic Verbecki and Brian Hagee are here tonight to talk about the PA historic marker involving the Continental Army. I'll let them proceed.
Good evening, Supervisors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Victor Verbeck. I live in Lower Southford Township. This is my partner in history, Brian Hagee. Brian is our neighbor in adjoining Talamenson Township. So when the pandemic happened, I'm looking for something to do, and I started poking around. I had no idea that George Washington, 11,000 of his soldiers in camp right here in Talamenson Township and in Lower Southford for 8 days in October of 1777. And that's when I found Brian Hagee's research and paper. This is the updated version. I think we did give it out to the supervisors. So all of this is really Brian Hagee's work. Brian and I did work together to submit an application for a marker. You've seen those markers. You can't really read them when you go zoom past. But Brian's goal and my goal is to get a marker suitably recognizing the encampment. It is called the encampment at Talamenson. Brian, I know you're never going to give that up, and rightfully so, because Washington headquarters was on the, you go down Ramble on the right-hand side at the Ramble Farm. However, the soldiers were on both sides of the Skipback Creek. So what I like to do is you go down the old Town Pike, because Washington had been defeated at Brandy Line. He had been defeated at Battle of Paoli. In September, the British took Philadelphia, the capital, which is only 26 miles or so away. And you can imagine the fear and the terror was probably going through these communities. And they were encamped up in Swainsville area, Pennypacker. You know the Battle of Germantown, which precedes this encampment. They marched all the way down Skipback Pike, Germantown Pike, which were laid out, fought and lost the Battle of Germantown, marched all the way back in that same day, the same night. And that's when Washington wrote the following on October 7, 1777. To the President of Continental Congress, John Hancock. He wrote, "My intention is to encamp the army in some suitable place, to rest and refresh the men, and recover them from the still remaining effects of that disorder naturally attended on a retreat." So they had been beaten badly and they were suffering, and they needed to leave Swainsville to find a new place, as General Washington said, to rest and refresh the men. So they came down Skipback Pike, made a left on 40-foot road. All these roads, it's pretty amazing. They're still there today. The same roads that we go down, a little bit more traffic, right?
Just a little.
But they came down what was called the Maxitawny Pike, the great highway, now Summitown, made a left. Brian has informed me that church was not there. There was a home and there was a graveyard, which we'll talk about. But then they came down to Ramble Road. The pike continued up into Hartsville. It was laid out, made the right on Ramble, and that's where Washington set up his headquarters in Bryan's Township, just missed Lower Southford. But, so we've applied for this marker. It is still under consideration, but Brian and I wanted to get out and put out the word. A couple weeks ago, we were down in Talamenson Township. Manistee, a very nice article the Lancet reporter did in the reporter recently. And so tonight we just wanted to come to Lower Southford because we both feel strongly that Washington and his army came not only to Talamenson, also to Lower Southford, on both sides of the Skipback Creek, all the way from Summitown Pike, all the way up to, what's the name of that road? Never remember.
Frankville, you mean, or?
No, to the road up where the cemetery is.
Oh, the old 40-foot road?
No, they up the Skipback Pike. So it's called, what's the road up there, Joe?
Well, there's the road to the track, they called one road, that was, but 73 was just called the Skip Back Road.
So I think they went all the way to Fretch Road and maybe even beyond up that way. But both sides of the Skip Back Creek, because they needed a source of water. And you probably read the local histories, Heckler's history from 1886, how he recounts how the people with 11,000 soldiers coming in, it was, and harvest time. So as we were talking earlier, your chickens, your hogs, everything was probably subject to being taken.
Yeah, a lot of farm animals went into the missing that week. They don't know where they went, but we know they went into various campfires to feed the soldiers. That's the way it had to be at that time.
So the good people of Lower Southford, back at that time in the 4 week in 1777, were probably, lost some of their property, but they did their part to sustain the army. I'm just going to highlight a few things and let my partner highlight maps, which he was kind enough to do. Not sure if you knew that General Washington executed a deserter about a quarter of a mile from where the pike crosses the Skip Back now, along the creek. And he ordered all of his regiments to send soldiers there. And if you read the histories that are recorded by Heckler and others, the people that were alive back then remember that boys went down, they circled the person who had deserted the army, and he was executed on a tree along the Skip Back Creek. So next time you go up Ramble and you see the creek about a quarter of a mile, business of war had to take place there.
Yeah, there was probably about 11,000 soldiers in the camp at that time, and Washington wanted 60 soldiers from each brigade. There was probably about 16 brigades at that time, so that the word would spread real quick, because everybody saw it, and they all knew that desertion was a deadly deed. There's no question about that. So that's.
And that execution followed the day after General Washington had to bury one of his generals. As you know, you've heard of Brigadier General Francis Nash is buried now at the Talmenson Mennonite Church with 3 other soldiers who died at the Battle of Germantown. So they held the service there to recognize those men. And the next day, they took care of the business. I said one other thing to touch on, and then I'm going to turn it over Brian. But something really amazing happened when occurred to me when I was doing my research, and I want to read it for you. So it was the last day of the encampment on October 15th, and that's when Washington received news that the Continental Army had defeated General Burgoyne at the Battle of Saratoga on October 7th. It took a week for that news to get down here to Talmenson and Lower Southfield. So Washington, in his general orders, said the following: in honor of the Northern Army to celebrate their victory, 13 pieces of cannon are to be discharged at the artillery park at 5 o'clock this afternoon. The general wishes them to consider that this is the grand American Army, and that, of course, great things are expected from us. So in my research, I believe, and I did consult some experts, this is the first time, because you can go on to the archives and research all of Washington's orders and letters. This is the very first time that he used the words Grand American Army. I know Valley Forge would probably say, no, the American Army was born over at Valley Forge within a month or 6 weeks later, because that's where they went essentially after this. They lost at White Marsh, crossed the Schuylkill, and ended up at Valley Forge. But I think that's pretty cool that right here in Talmenson, Lower Southfield, this is the first time. And I did talk to some experts, they couldn't refute it. So I lay claim to that fact that here in Lower Southford and Talmenson, the Grand American Army, in George Washington's own words, was born right here in October of 1777. I'm going to turn over to my partner just to point out some maps. There's some really interesting things of local interest.
Yeah, I just brought 2. These are really rare artifacts that I discovered. That one in the Library of Congress, and I showed it, well, as soon as I found it, I showed it to a dear friend of mine, John Ruth. You may know the name, he's a local historian.
and he almost fell off his chair because that is just proof that everything did happen as historians say it. And what that is, it's a receipt from George Washington to Friedrich Walpole for using his house and using all his food for the week, and he paid the Walpole family about 28 pounds for all the provisions that they used all week, including like 45 heads of cabbage, 520 pounds of flour, about 2.5 barrels, onions and honey and potatoes and birds, chickens, everything. Even paid them for the butter they used. And Washington felt so bad, so after it was all said and done, he gave him another receipt for an additional pound or two for the use of his home. And I have that receipt here. And also, I found in the Library of Congress another receipt where Washington had a haircut while he was here. We don't know who the barber was, but he had to pay the staggering amount of 2 shillings to get his haircut while he was here. So I thought that was interesting. But that's a great piece to have locally. That's proof that he was here. This here is a 1777 map hand drawn by a Continental Army cartographer. We don't know who it was. We had some ideas, but let it go because we can't prove it. But just showing the area from Schwecksville all the way down to Chestnut Hill area, and right here in the center is Temenson and the 40-foot road. Up here is Klein's Tavern. Can anyone guess what Klein's Tavern was? That was Harleysville. Before there was a Harleysville, before this area was known as Southford, it was just called Klein's Tavern because Klein had a tavern over near where the Harleysville Insurance Company is today. So this shows all the encampments in the area from roughly September 28th through the end of the year.
So Brian talked about Klein's Tavern. There was an article back in 2021 about the tavern. And the claim was made, but Brian corrected it. I'm going to go with Brian Hagee, our local historian. This article says that Klein's Tavern was built and was on the same location of today's Harleysville Hotel. But Brian said, no, it was back up the street a little bit where the insurance company is. But what I like to imagine, Washington is on his horse with Hamilton, and his other generals. Where do you think they're gonna go after they take care of all this business? They're gonna ride up the pike right here through town, it's still here today, and go to Klein's Tavern, probably stop. And I'll close with this. I live on Mainland Ridge, Toll Brothers Development. That farm, the Alderford Farm, that was turned into our land development, had apples. And I read that they had a distillery. Apparently the Mennonite and the farmers had tons of distilleries around here. They weren't gonna let their apples go to waste. So I like to imagine that Washington made a right off the mainland and came up to my ridge and had some apple cider as well. So that is our presentation about, as I said, we talked to the supervisors of the town of Menson. We do have a 250th birthday celebration coming up next year. If we get the marker, we want to make sure to include Lower Southwood representatives if and when we get the marker. So we will let you know. But more importantly, in October of
2027.
2027.
Yeah.
Town Menson was very interested, and we would hope that Lower Southwood would partner with Town Menson during the week of the encampment in October of 2027 to have community events, and we're trying to get schools involved, and I think it's something really worthwhile to recognize as part of history. So thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions?
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Something to celebrate for sure.
Yeah, I just want to express my sincere gratitude to all those who worked diligently on this marker for our townships. Recently, I was at the event here where I learned about General Polanski, his encampments here. I saw those receipts, very informative, and you think you know something, and then you know so much more. So it really showcased the depth of history we have right here, and the marker is a wonderful way to ensure the stories are remembered, celebrated for generations to come. So,
Yeah, a lot of historians are now calling Lower Southford and to mention this whole area, they're calling it ground zero for the revolution. That's just in and out of Philadelphia, they all the time. This is where a lot happened. Yeah.
Maybe you know his names to give him credit. Was it Michael who was here giving the presentation? He did a great job. I was trying to look
And
it
what
up.
was his last name?
think it was Michael. It was the one that was advertised in the paper that was here for the historical.
Zerberg or something like that?
May have been that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, he's really
He was
good. Yeah,
phenomenal.
He knows his stuff, yeah.
And I do know Mr. Ruth, I'm lucky to know, and he's given me photos of my current house as well as old photos of my parents' area and all. It's just so fascinating. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Brian, Vic, thanks. All right, with that, we will move on. That brings us to our public discussion period. The first of two on the agenda. Is there anyone wishing to be recognized? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed and posted.
I'll make that motion. I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Committee reports. Zoning Hearing Board, Mr. Buki.
There are no zoning hearing board applications for
Park Board.
Next park board meeting will be. Is it here?
It's gonna be a rock.
Roth Park, that's right. We're gonna meet at Roth Park on the pavilion. Over by the duck pond and, that will be on the 27th of May at 7 p.m.
Very nice. That reminds me that the upcoming meetings for these various committees are listed at the bottom of the agenda. If folks are interested in attending, they are more than welcome. Fire Chief.
Sir. Evening,
Good evening.
Bill and Jesse Vincent, Assistant Chief.
Jesse, it's good to see you.
Sure. So for the month of April, we had 22 day calls, 5 night calls, for a total of 27 calls. 13 of which were fire alarms, 2 electrical fire outsides, 2 special services, 2 unknown type fires, 2 woods fires, 1 building fire commercial, 1 building fire non-commercial, 1 building investigation, 1 carbon monoxide detected with no symptoms, 1 elevator alarm, and 1 gas odor leak outside, correction inside. 18 of those calls were in Lower Southford, 5 in Franconia, 3 in Taliesin, and 1 in South. We provided mutual aid 5 times, received mutual aid 5 times. There was 2 fire police only dispatches for a total fire personnel response of 283 personnel for an average firefighters per call of 10.55 with 9 hours, 20 minutes and 4 seconds in service. And just one note that obviously you all are aware of is that the fair is this month. So we're well under our planning and logistics, working with the new vendor from the fair, getting that all set up and ready to go. We'll be out there every night with the crew on duty on stay up there, as well as fire police, during the traffic everywhere. So, and the fireworks and the parade, obviously. So.
Well, with any luck, we'll have good weather. It'll be very busy, but
Yeah.
very worthwhile. All right, any questions for Jesse?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
All right, moving right along, the report from Jesse will be posted at the township if those wishing to review it. The Freedom Valley Medical Rescue, I don't see anyone here from that group, but we did get their March 2025 report in advance, and that too will be posted for public view. Communications Committee, Mr. Shelley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee is also working on branching out and having our meetings go on the road. Similarly to the Park Board, we're looking at aspects of going to residential facilities and seeing if we can bring it to them. We also have a change in the Communication Committee, and tonight I want to express our sincere gratitude to Holly for her dedicated years of service, not just to our township, but in particular, her contributions to the Communications Committee have been invaluable. Her attention to details and ideas has significantly enhanced our outreach efforts. I just want to thank Holly for her commitment and hard work. Grace will be taking over Holly's role with the Communications Committee as our liaison. So I want to thank Holly for all her.
Nice, very nice.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And our next meeting is listed on the bottom. It is the 3rd Wednesday of the month. I forget the date off the top of my
May
head.
21.
That's what I was going to say. Thank you. I'll be there. It's on my calendar. So thank you.
Sounds good. All right, then moving right along, Recreation Authority, we were to have met in April, however, we lacked quorum and postponed that meeting, so I really don't have anything to report other than if you drive past the golf course, the parking lot is full with regularity. So I'll be curious to see what gets posted for our meeting May 22nd at 7 PM. Actually, I believe that meeting is going to be at the golf course at 6 PM. So that at the bottom of the agenda, that's 6 PM at the golf course for those wishing to attend. Yeah. All right, very good. Moving right along, unfinished business. This is SR 63, section MRS ECMS project 117961 East, Main Street East Ruth Road sidewalk. Transportation alternative set aside project authorization for concurrence to award the project to the low bidder Marino Corporation in the amount of $578,848 through the PennDOT ECMS posting, including contract execution in ECMS by Joe Jakowski and our township solicitor.
I will make that motion. That's a mouthful. I'm not gonna repeat it.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next up, the Chinmaya Land Development Extension Request, which is a letter that we received, and I think there's some representatives here this evening to discuss that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Indeed.
My name is Murali Uppala, representing Chinmaya Mission Tri-State, of which Chinmaya Mission are listed as one of the centers. I'm representing today because one of the members is traveling until next so. In February, we were given an extension of 3 months and asked us to come back here with a couple of action items. I think CKS engineers did the site inspection and gave a checklist and increased the financial responsibility. And accordingly, we gave it escrow check yesterday to make it. Second thing is we had an expired stormwater environmental report. So we touched base with Montgomery Community.
Yeah, we know who you meant.
So we were able to get some information and then we have a follow-up meeting in a couple of weeks. I think that way was enough guidance in terms of how we have to move forward. So that is one of the pending items that we have to continue to takes time, I guess, with the new regulations. So we are moving well with our fundraisers and moving towards completing all this project within the next 2 years. So I'm requesting the board of supervisors to give the extension. And then give us the ability to address where we left off.
Michelle, you're satisfied with the, I guess, financial security in place?
Yes, we did the inspection, found the number of trees that were installed to be dead that they have to replace and upgrading the cost to today's numbers. It was an additional 63,000 and Mike received the check from them.
Okay. All the conditions are met then, we're good. They're willing to do all that work and all, so very good. Wonderful.
Yep, so we would be
Thank you.
extending to May 7th, 2027. So we should, I think,
We can
make a motion to approve that.
Yeah, that's fine.
I will make the motion to extend. their,
Second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, thanks for coming in.
Yes, once that amendment gets signed, we have to get it signed and notarized and get it back.
That's what usually happens. The magic date is now May 7, 2027. So basically 2 years from tonight.
Talking about the amendment, Mr. Hackle pretty much has.
I'm sorry, say that.
Yeah,
Somebody,
we had the amendment to the land development agreement, I believe.
Yeah,
that's fine. And it's in the resolution anyway. This will supersede the land development agreement anyway.
And should you have any additional questions, you could always contact the staff as
My
well.
name is Murali Uppala,
We have to spell it.
MURALI last name V as in Victor, U, A as in Peter, A as in Peter, A-L-A.
He's had to do that before.
I never would have got that.
Well, thank you for your time.
Board, you can take my name also, as a consultant. My name is Harish Kona, spelled as H-A-R-E-E-S-A, Kona, K, last name is Kona, K-O-N-A.
Like that.
I would have had a chance.
That one I got, yeah.
I would
that
have
one
had
I
a
got.
chance. I would have had a
Thank you for
chance with
coming
that
up.
one, not the
Thank you
first one.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you. All right, moving on. Under unfinished business, letter C, resolution 2025-09, 310 Covenant Lane Covenant Presbyterian Church, preliminary final land development approval.
I would like to make a motion to the preliminary final for this, for the Presbyterian Church.
I will second. Moved and seconded, all in favor, we fight?
Before we vote, if we can, gentlemen,
Sure.
you guys know how I discussed the preliminary final. I am concerned about combining them. Preliminary phase allows us to thoroughly vet the proposal, address issues early, including gathering valuable public input. Skipping it could risk an unforeseen problems during construction, increased costs, and potential impacts on residents. So I do believe a separate preliminary review with an opportunity for more public comment is essential for a better outcome.
So we have motion on the table and seconded.
One more question as well. Are there specific conditions of approval included in this resolution as well? Yeah, specifically, like, one to double check there.
That says that they have to address.
CKS's letter.
Just one to double check.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay,
Which that type of resolution always said.
thank you. Nothing, I got it.
So motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries. All right, next up, letter D. Motion to approve resolution 2025-10, 17 Mainland Road, Creekside at Mainland, amended final land development approval. Mr. Bonenberg, it's good to see you. Any questions regarding this?
I have a few questions.
Sure.
Well,
Go ahead.
does this revised development fully comply with current zoning ordinances, and the township's comprehensive plan? And if not, are there necessary variances justified in the best interest? Do we know?
According to,
Yeah, there's no variance.
it's in your letter.
I had sorry, I have one more question here.
Sure.
Yes, are there any long-term environmental impacts of the revised development, particularly regarding stormwater management, green space preservation, overall sustainability? And what measures are in place to mitigate any negative effects we may have from the extra apartments? Please, thank you. And thank you for coming as well, sir.
The impervious surface, will actually go down. There will be more.
Name and address for the record.
William Bonenberger. Owner of WB Homes and of the Creekside project. There will actually be more green grass and pervious surface after the changes than there exists right now. So, all the stormwater management that was in place obviously was checked. Calculations work, so it's gonna work even better now because it'll be less impervious.
Thank you. I have another question as well, if I may,
Sure.
I can ask you, sir. I looked back and following the preliminary final approval in 2022, I did bring up the minutes. And you did say that you were going to engage with some of the residents, specifically Mrs. Tromsky and other concerned residents, discuss their concerns about the density development, potential flooding. Did you meet with them, and if at all, has that influenced the revised land development plan that we now see?
I personally did not meet with them, but I believe our team, our land development team did. As to whether or not the plans were modified, I think the plans already met all the requirements of the ordinance. There is no flooding, we're controlling, there's less flooding now than before because we're controlling it with a huge underground basin, so. There are no issues that I'm aware of that we're causing.
Were you able to discuss anything with the residents in that area regarding the new plans without the bar?
No.
Okay.
I mean, just for the record, the new plan, is less traffic. but there's no traffic impact. And look, honestly speaking, I'm more disappointed by the new plan than the old plan. I would prefer that the old plan worked. That was the dream, that was the goal.
Yeah.
And I tried very hard when the restaurant failed to have someone else come in. I talked to anyone you can think of, I talked to. And the problem was, no through traffic, right? That was ultimately, I think, the reason it failed, 3 times in a row, so, yeah.
Given, speaking of concerns with like parking and whatnot, given the reduction in parking spaces, how does the revised plan address residents concerned about if there are any resident concerns about increased traffic or parking congestion? And do we need a traffic study for this?
Well, I think the traffic engineer has already determined, that there will be less traffic, which is why there's no traffic impact fee. The residential units that we're gonna build there, require much less parking. That's why we're able to fit another building in there in what is now a parking lot. So we're gonna have more than adequate parking. There's plenty of empty spaces there now. The requirement of 2 parking spaces per apartment is more than generous. It provides plenty of overflow parking. Most people only have 1 car in the apartment that are living in the apartment. So there's no traffic issues, and there are no parking issues.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? So we'll take a motion for, to approve resolution 2025-10.
I will make the motion.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion carries.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thanks, Bill. Moving right along, letter E, authorization to execute the Mascaro sewage treatment plant maintenance agreement, which has been vetted.
Revetted.
At nauseam, is that, can I say that?
Would be a good.
By our counselor. So with that.
With a lot of help from Michelle, on the engineering issues and, there's still, I think, 15 other paragraphs of that DEP letter from 2022 still need to be addressed and responded to. But the agreement, the maintenance agreement is now, satisfactory in my.
Ironed out.
Just gonna ask, my biggest concerns were the financial responsibilities. You feel like, for example, if the system fails or needs major upgrades, what would the townships, will we have to step in there? Does the owner have any liability, or does he have capital liability?
Well, the owner has primary, this is a little bit hard to explain. They have primary liability, but we're the
Ultimate responsibility.
ultimate responsibility. It's primary and ultimate. And they have put up, I think, what, $400,000 for repair.
302 for the first 2 years, 302,000 for the first 2 years.
Okay, right. And we can always,
For the 302 per year.
It's a bond.
and we can always talk to DEP about it anyway. And we also have the power under this agreement to say, vacate the buildings and leave it empty and don't flush the toilet.
Wow. If it comes to that.
We have that power?
In the agreement, that do, yeah.
Oh, okay.
If we don't have to use the money.
Right.
We're supposed to, but we can say under the agreement, please repair XYZ. And if they don't, we can say, all right, well then get the people out of those buildings and don't flush the toilet.
That's the fail safe to the extent that it becomes so dilapidated, right? That
Or they don't,
Financial.
it's.
If they're not
it's a-
complying
it's a
with-
Private
Plan.
sewer system.
Right.
But DEP makes the municipality responsible for every private system.
Yep.
In the Commonwealth, and DEP says, in their suggested agreement, protect yourself.
Mhm.
So, that's what we tried to do.
So we feel everything was,
adequately protected.
right, we're adequately protected through the township and the.
Oh, Stephanie Butler, Rob Carlson.
So the,
Okay.
Very good.
so, has the DEP reviewed this specific one? Or is that
They
something
have not reviewed this agreement yet, but having never heard of such an agreement, 2 years ago, we got DEP to send us an agreement, which we followed, and the property owner didn't like the agreement at all. and wanted say 15 things changed, and I think we're to the point now where the only thing that got changed was like one thing. So we're in pretty good shape.
I appreciate it. And that's what I was leaning on. So you think this is good news?
I think it's good because, I mean, Michelle has the right to say that's not right, and
Right.
As much
Yeah,
as we could.
as much as you want,
As
yeah.
much as we could, we covered.
Good.
But again, this is only one paragraph of 16 in that
Right.
letter from DEP's review of the original module,
Yes, planning
right?
module.
Planning module. So, they're still a long way from home.
Are there any circumstances that the township could terminate the agreement or, for any reason? Would there ever be a reason, or is this secure somewhere?
I think the problem with the township terminating,
What would be the
could
consequences?
we, yes.
Yeah, that's what I should ask.
Um,
What would be the consequences?
Would we do
for
that? We'd probably get sued by DEP. Because DEP is not gonna let a treatment plant go unsupervised.
And that would come back into
A private
responsibility,
Right.
not next strategy there.
Right.
Okay. Well, I trust that.
Okay, so all we're asking for, just so it's clear, is authorization to advertise. They've already signed it. In fact, they signed, I think, version 6 of the agreement. We're there, I think, and I think when everything is ready to go, then we would sign it and say, okay, this is the deal, provided you satisfy all the other concerns of DEP.
One more question then, just because you said this isn't authorized, on the agenda, I have authorization to execute. Should that be
Yeah.
authorization to authorize?
I think it's execute, not, I don't think.
I didn't think it was authorized.
I'm sorry.
I don't think we have to advertise it unless.
Oh, no, we don't have to advertise it, but it's
Just
just
making sure we're
executing.
executing.
I mean, if you go through the agreement, it says if and when this happens, if and when this happens, if and when this happens, then it's a binding agreement. But DP, I don't think we'll even look at it unless we've signed.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And this is just the maintenance agreement section of it. So,
Yep.
very good.
Thank
All
you.
right. I will make the motion to authorize.
I'll second. All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on to new business. Resolution 2025-11 authorizing the submission of a grant application for the 2025 CFA MTF program for traffic signal and trail construction at the Harleysville Pike and Paterno Drive / Maple Avenue intersection. So this would just be the authorizing the submission of the grant application as we have previously discussed.
3 years, I guess.
We've been discussing it.
Yeah.
Did we get any feedback regarding prices or possibilities for roundabouts, Stephanie, as discussed? Or any feedback from the county? Because I thought at one point that was something that they were hopeful for.
That was a question from PennDOT.
Okay.
Not the county.
Okay,
And so PennDOT has asked us to, obviously, we looked at the ICE form, which is the intersection control evaluation, and we've documented that. But it still stands that it warrants the traffic signal, and that's what we're pursuing under this particular grant application. I don't think that we have any other feedback at this particular time other than the submission of the application for it to be continued to be reviewed. I believe we do also have a meeting next week scheduled with DCED to review the project.
Right, so our request is for $1,036,375 for the grant, as I understand it.
That is correct.
So we may or may not get it. We're just asking for it.
Asking for
Understand.
it, right.
And
I will-
again, as I discussed before, I feel there's other areas that we could look at as well. But if this does warrant a traffic signal, I am.
I still think an
forced to-
overpass would be great right there.
And since we did the study, that comes back, it does say we did warrant one. I understand that as well.
So I will make the motion for the resolution 2025-11.
I'll second. Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. All right, moving on. Resolution 2025-12, authorizing the submission of grant application for the 2025 DCED CFA Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program for the construction and inspection activities for the Oak Drive pedestrian improvement project. Any questions on that one? This is for basically $216,784 from DCD to finish that project, I guess. What it amounts to.
Mhm. I will make the motion for resolution 2025-12.
I will second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay, motion carries. All right, next up, authorization to advertise ordinance 2025-01 proposed village commercial zoning district amendments. We want to advertise those changes to our zoning ordinance.
I would make the motion that we advertise them, and I thank Mr. Buki for all his efforts and the team's efforts to get it to this point.
And our friends at the planning commission.
Spent long hours at the planning commission. They are available for viewing.
Feel free to watch the video.
We get to pause on them. That's the difference. So we appreciate their time. Oh,
I will second.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay, motion carries. Next up, ordinance, again, authorization to advertise the ordinance 2025-02 proposed road classification ultimate right-of-way amendments, which go hand in hand with the village commercial amendment. Any questions or comments?
I would make the motion to advertise ordinance number 2025-02. And again, thank all that were involved in getting it this far.
Sounds good.
I will second.
All right, moved and seconded, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay, motion carries. Letter E, this is authorization to advertise 480 Gross Mill / Selford Mennonite Church for conditional use.
I'd like to add one comment that I told you gentlemen as well. I do attend there and I am going to abstain for the vote.
Very good, understood.
Well, I will make the motion for 40 Gross Mill Road, South Mennonite Church, conditional use.
Advertised.
Yep, it's the advertisement.
Advertise, sorry.
Yep.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor say aye. Opposed say nay, one abstention. All right, next up, letter F, 130 Christopher Lane, discussion of waivers. At last, our friends at STA are here tonight.
Susan with STA, here to talk about 3 waiver requests for a project that has been around for a very long time. We've seen a couple different versions of it. Final version, I think we're making progress here. It's a little bit of a different layout than you've seen before, but this is an amended final approval, amended final plan approval. The 3 waivers we're looking for are, the waiver that requires curb and sidewalk along all common parking areas. The way the building is set up and the drive aisles are designed and the way the building is used, is going to have, is a warehouse type building that's going to have garage bays in it and garage doors to access those garage bays. And the drive aisle is going to go close to the building, and then the parking is on the outside of that. So there's no need for internal sidewalk adjacent to the building or even around the parking lot, because the folks are just going to park in the parking lot and walk across the aisle and go into their bays. Also, we're asking, I guess that is pretty much, we talked to the planning commission about if we needed a sidewalk to connect to the sidewalk that's out at Christopher Lane. Thought that was not necessary to have the drive aisles. There's not a lot of traffic on this. It's the guys come in and leave. There's not a lot of vehicular activity. So if a pedestrian did need to use the drive aisles to get into the property, it wouldn't be a big deal. We have curb along all the parking spaces. We are asking for a waiver to not put curb along the back drive aisle because that would sheet flow right into the basin that's done in that location. So the curb would stop the sheet flow. So we're asking for a waiver of that.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's something that they're moving to, right? More sheet flow off of parking lots into basins. Used to be, I know years ago we were doing that. It was all curbs going to inlets and then outletting into basin. And I see more and more that are eliminating those curbs to have sheet flow.
It's definitely better for the environment, but I don't necessarily know whether or not it's baked into our ordinances.
It is not.
Which
It
is
is
why
not in the
a waiver is required. Yeah, but
It's better to have any runoff run over grass rather than being directly piped into a basin.
Okay.
So you could look at it that way, but I don't know if we're really gearing towards eliminating the curb and all that stuff.
No, I don't want to. I was just wondering if that's a general trend in the industry. I mean, I see it more and more.
To the extent
I
you
just-
can, it's context sensitive design, and what you're doing is you're not putting improvements in unless necessary.
Right,
So
right.
by virtue of leaving the curb out, you don't have to put in the inlets, you don't need the
Right.
boxes, you don't need the pipes.
True.
So
Yeah.
it is what Mike was saying, context sensitive to the ground. Now, you can't always do it if the ground doesn't run that way,
Right.
you know,
Of course,
to the
yeah.
extent you're able.
Sure.
And then you don't have all that added maintenance from structures. In this case, we do have structures that run down through the centers of the drive aisles to collect the water and get it out there, but we also have sheet flow, combination flow.
Okay.
Yeah. The next one is the waiver for, replacement trees provided for all trees being removed. So again, this has been around for a long time. All of the trees that are in this area were previously being, removed. We may have added one or two when we expanded the building a little bit, but, we are maintaining the whole back of the area in the wooded state. So, we are saving more than we're taking down really, but because the trees have grown over time, now they are a different, bigger tree that require more replacement. So, we're asking for that waiver, provide a fee in lieu of. And then if you look at waiver number 3, it talks about requiring replacement trees to be selected from the shade tree plant list. We're asking for that waiver because the planning commission was looking for us to put some evergreen trees out front to kind of shield what they think is an uglier building. So they wanted those evergreen trees out front and to help with that buffering. So we're asking to allow those 12 trees that we're putting in to count towards the replacement trees to reduce the amount that we have to replace, but then to also allow them to be those evergreen trees, because your replacement trees need to be counted.
On that one, and first, appreciate you coming as well. These are just considerations, and I just want to clarify that as well. What contingency plans would be in place if the existing vegetation does not provide adequate screening, or if it dies off in the future?
The existing vegetation,
Yeah.
in the back?
Yes.
Well, I mean, that's been there for probably since I've been working on this project back in 2018, it hasn't gone away. So it just keeps growing bigger, so.
Near the detention basin, so regarding this waiver.
Oh, the detention basin. Oh, that waiver was granted before as
Okay.
well. And we are still maintaining the existing trees in the back. And we are providing some of the required detention basin plantings, just not to the full extent. We have 3 new trees, and then I forget the total number of shrubs, 16 or so. So we're planting a portion of that.
That's it.
So, Michelle, you're okay with the sheet flow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, in fact, like we talked about it, it's probably preferable in this instance.
Right. No, you're not really worried about any kind of erosion of the bank past the parking lot?
Well, we're going to keep an eye on it. It's not that steep, although from the edge of the pavement into the detention basin.
Okay.
And I'm sure that there's going to be matting along the
Right.
detention basin, kind of locked in place.
Okay, very
And
good.
they're more shallow detention basins, are not real,
Right.
deep anymore, and, it is a sheet flow condition, trying not to, get it concentrated.
Right. Right.
Minimize erosion.
Right.
Would there be any potential negative impacts of the detention basin on the existing vegetation, such as changes in hydrology or soil?
On the existing, I don't understand much.
I'm saying, for waiver number 2 here. I'm not planning on you're not going to put any planning around the detention basin. I'm saying the current vegetation that is there.
Right.
Do you foresee any problems? Okay. Thank you. Sorry for that.
Yeah, no, that's, and, we're not planning, on the berm, it's not a common practice to plant on top of the berm, so that is also part of the reason why.
Thank you. That was an on-the-fly question.
Yeah, yes.
And the planning commission was on board with all of
Very
these.
thorough with this, and that is one of the reasons why we always ask for preliminary and final, because your planning commission is very thorough and doesn't let us come here until we've got all those things, worked out.
Ironed out.
So, yeah, that is a reason why we do ask for that.
One benefit is getting extra feedback from the public from hearing
Yeah.
about it and having the opportunity to come another month too.
Yeah, yeah.
Are we going through them individually or?
You may, go ahead.
Sorry,
If you've
another
got
one,
questions, go ahead.
Sure, please. Regarding the waiver for planning around the trash dumpster. What my question would be, sorry. If the existing woodland diminishes in the future, what alternative screening methods will be implemented?
So that was a favor that.
Oh, yeah, that was all waiver, so that was a mistake on my part. I
Okay.
uploaded the old waiver list instead of the much abbreviated.
The one with the three. That's what I was double checking. Hence my.
Yeah, I was gonna
confusion
say,
with the
yeah,
extra
yeah.
ones.
No.
I was reading what's in front, so just double checking as well.
My box.
No worries.
We'll talk after the meeting.
Yeah, I'm reading it in my head like I didn't go again.
All right, does the board have any other questions regarding the waivers? As you know, we don't approve them here. They'll be listed on the plans and we'll deal with it at final. Plan approval. We like seeing, you. What can we say?
We like company.
Exactly.
If you like it, you should come back for the preliminary and final. No,
Well,
Thank you,
Doesn't
thank you
like
for
it that
coming
much.
here. We do appreciate it.
Thanks, Susan.
Thank
Yep,
you so
thank
much.
you.
It's consideration. It's just a consideration discussion, right?
No harm, no foul,
Talk about
until we get final approval and
it.
then
No,
think about them again.
not tonight. All right, moving right along. Letter G, adoption of proclamation designating May 21 through 24, 2025 as the annual Harleysville Country Fair Days. This proclamation reads, the Harleysville J.C.'s of Lower Safford Township, an organization dedicated to community services, initiated the Country Fair Day celebration in May of 1968. This celebration was instrumental in renewing community spirit through its friendly carnival atmosphere and its pledge to benefit the Harleysville Community Center and other community organizations with the income realized through this event. So with that, we can sign, provided we all endorse the proclamation, those dates as Country Fair Days.
I make the motion that we sign it.
I will second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Let's see here. We also have a request for fire police assistance to Collegeville Borough for the Ursinus College commencement ceremony on May 17th, 2025.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, all in favor, say aye. Aye, those say nay. Motion carries. That brings us to our second discussion period of the evening, and I see no one wishing to be recognized.
Make one
We,
comment.
we wore them out.
Thank you.
I can't see.
Just
Kevin's got one comment.
because I
Sure.
did have some residents, I explained, Mike, reach out to me via email, just curious to learn more about what the our Main Street East Road sidewalk thing that we did. I just want to say, I didn't see them here tonight, but if anybody watching is ever curious, you could always call the township staff during office hours. They'd be happy to fill it up as well. So hopefully they'll watch this meeting. Take that back.
Call or email, the staff is at your service,
We're here to help.
here to help.
And I will forward that email to Mike as well. We talked about that
Sounds good.
already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, with that, do we have need for executive session this evening? I don't believe that we do. So with that, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
Move, we adjourn.
Second.
Move to second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. It was unanimous.
Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
So countryside.
Bye, staff.
Bye-bye. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
He